To welcome everybody to court today. We're going to call this court to order at 10 o'clock. Item number 2 is an opening prayer by Pastor Taylor Day from the Valley Creek Church. And if you would please stand.
Dear Heavenly Father, I just thank you for today. I thank you for this time and the opportunity to just come and meet with you. So God, I just ask for wisdom. I ask for discernment and just a Jesus-focused perspective as we're making decisions today. This time is yours, and so God, may it glorify you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. And you're welcome to stay and join us if you'd like to. Commissioner Snuggs, if you would, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Once again, welcome everybody to court today. Do we have any public comments? Anybody signed up?
We do not.
Do not. Okay, thank you. We'll go right to the consent agenda, which is item number 6. And the consent agenda includes non-controversial and routine items that the court may act on with one single vote. The judge or a commissioner may pull any item from the consent agenda in order that the court discuss and act upon it individually as part of the regular agenda.
If y'all don't have anything, I make a motion we approve the consent agenda as is.
Commissioner Snuggs makes the motion to approve the consent agenda as is. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Sicking. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? There are none. The consent agenda passes 5-0. It's rather lengthy this week. Item number 7 is to deliberate and consider possible action regarding the approval of the Treasurer's monthly report for December 2024.
Move to approve.
Commissioner Hollowell moves to approve the Treasurer's monthly report. I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And there are none. The Treasurer's monthly report passes 5-0. Brings us to item number 8, open public hearing regarding a replat of lots 1084, 1085, and 1086 of Lake Kiowa, Inc. subdivision as requested by Lansing, Carlton, Deal, and Wife. And we'll open that public hearing at 10:03. Anybody wish to speak to this item? Pardon?
He's out of town.
Out of town?
He's out of town.
Okay. Is anybody speaking for?
I can't.
Okay. If you don't mind, just let us know what that is.
Yeah, it's just merging, separating 3 lots. It was 3 lots and they had 1, now they're making it back to 3. Septic's all been taken care of, everything. It's proof.
Okay.
I got the minutes from the POA.
Okay. Okay. Item number 9 would be to close the public hearing then if there are no other comments, and we'll do that at 10:04. Item number 10, deliberate and consider possible action regarding the approval of replat of lots 1084, 1085, 1086 of Lake Kiowa, Inc. Subdivision as requested by Lansing, Carlton, Deal, and Wife.
As stated, Lake Kiowa POA is signed over on this, so motion to approve the replat.
All right. Commissioner Snuggs makes the motion to approve the replat as requested, item number 10. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second that, Commissioner Arndt. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And there are none. It passes 5-0, item number 10. Item number 11, deliberate and consider possible action regarding the approval of preliminary plat of Rock Creek West, Phase 1, with 158 residential lots.
This is,
Go ahead.
this is an extension of Rock Creek. It's over in Grayson County off 901. That's being developed by Double Diamond Resorts. I would make a motion we approve.
Second.
We have a motion, Commissioner Hollowell, second, Commissioner Snuggs, to approve item number 11, which is a replat, or preliminary plat, excuse me, of Rock Creek West Phase 1. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? There are none. Item number 11 passes 5-0. Item number 12, deliberate and consider possible approval of preliminary plat lots 1 through 40 of Tuck Acre Addition in Precinct 1. Once again, Commissioner Hollowell.
That's a small subdivision off of County Road 140. Going to have basically one road. They're aware that we won't be accepting that road. I'd make a motion we approve the preliminary plat.
Motion, Commissioner Hollowell, to approve item number 12, the preliminary plat of lots 1 through 40 of Tuck Acre.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Snuggs. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? There are none. Item 12 passes 5-0. Item number 13, deliberate and consider possible approval of final plat of Clear Sky Phase 2 with 115 residential lots. Commissioner Snuggs.
I think everything's in order on this one.
Is somebody here from, Kathy, there's no problem if we approve it and they're gonna, it can be approved, and it can sit there and they're not working on it for a while, right?
Right, and they don't have their bonds ready yet, so.
They wanna wait
They
until,
know that we won't file the plat until.
okay, so that's what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I talked about.
That's our plan.
Okay. I'm supposed to run you through the ringer this morning. You want me to? I make a motion that we approve the final plat for Clear Sky of Phase 2.
All right, we have a motion, Commissioner Snuggs, to approve the final plat of Clear Sky Phase 2. Do I hear a second? Second, Commissioner Sicking. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? There are none. Item 13 passes 5-0. Item number 14, deliberate and consider possible action regarding the request by David Jones to place an electrical outlet in the North Annex back parking lot. David, you're here. You want to explain what, and identify yourself?
Yes,
if you
sir.
would.
Good morning, Commissioners, Judge. I'm David Jones. I have the State Theater over here. I was wanting to discuss some work I want to do on the old GNB Bank, or Prosperity Bank. That's where we decided to put the stage for the Blues and Tattoos Festival. My original plan was to set generators to run the stage. The more I thought about it, I really hate to gas up generators and have them set into the back, running all day. I'm pretty familiar with the bank, and just in that corner, there's two service panels that used to run the accounting, used to run checking machines and all. It'd be a pretty simple job, and I'd pay for everything and compensate you for any electricity or donate whatever. But we could just come through that wall and set a small panel with a couple of plugs under it and 240 plugs. I'll make it to where it'll serve just about anything, whether you have a special event like mine or a blood drive bus, they can plug up to it or whatever, I was just looking to hopefully get permission from you guys to install that power source to run the stage, just so I didn't have to have generators run and gas them up through for 2 days. And
Put a box on it that locks, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, there's a lock on it, and when we're done, we'll turn it off and lock it, give Mr. Kerr the keys. This can be an annual thing, hopefully, so I think it'll be something.
I forget, when was the event gonna happen?
Saturday,
This coming
this
Saturday?
coming Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
Expecting quite a crowd.
Okay,
I know
just
he's-
be left there and.
It'll be installed and locked up, and it'll be up to the county, can use it for whatever purpose they want. Hopefully, we can just use it year after year.
Well, I'd gladly make the motion to approve item number 14.
I'll second it.
Second, Commissioner Snuggs. All in favor, and thank you, David. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Aye.
Item number 15 is deliberate and consider possible action regarding the district attorney's request to use asset forfeiture funds to pay Holly Oakley, the 235th Judicial District Court reporter, for a record that was requested by District Attorney's Office in the amount of $804.
Well, Judge, Commissioners, so we've got an invoice from Holly Oakley for a record that we requested on a pending criminal matter that we have. Really, we just need permission from, or approval from this Commissioner's Court to be able to pay that out of our asset forfeiture fund. I took the steps and met with Sharon Giffen last week. She actually issued a purchase order for me out of this forfeiture fund. We signed it. I went up to my office, and then I later found out that it wasn't going to be approved. So really, I just need you guys to approve us to be able to pay that, and then we can go on about our way.
And why was that not going to be approved?
Sharon told me that it's because we had not requested the requisition prior to the time of us receiving the actual transcript.
Okay, didn't that recently happen with the donut situation?
It was similar with the donuts. However, this is going to be different than the donuts because the statute that the donuts would fall under is going to be the 13901, which is actually, that would be, I guess, a supply or a material, something like that. So it's 113.901 of the Texas Local Government Code does apply to supplies and materials. In this case, this is actually a service that was provided by a court reporter. If it's a service, 113.064 would apply. And in that case, the only thing that has to happen is the auditor has to have this purchase order for a sufficient amount of time so that she can audit the account and make sure that we have funds in the account to be able to pay for it. And I've got actually 3 separate AG's opinions here that all say that the way that we've been practicing, and I'm not really, the policy that we have is the policy that we have, but the way that this law has been used is not the way that the AG opinion actually says that this law needs to be used. The auditor is not permitted to refuse to issue a requisition or a purchase order just because that purchase has already been made. I've got 3 different AG's opinions that say that, and that kind of fits, especially when we're talking about services versus supplies or materials. If we're going on Office Depot and we know we're about to buy a $500 chair, it makes sense for us to get a requisition prior to that and go through that whole step. If we're paying for a service, we know we've got money in the account. The requisition can be made and that service can be paid for at the time that the goods are actually received or after the time that the goods are received. And that's what every single one of these AG's opinions says, is you don't actually have to get the requisition prior to the time that the goods are received. So I've got 3 separate AG's opinions for you. I'd be happy to supply them for you if you'd like to review them.
Those are opinions, however, right?
Yes, one of them's a letter opinion, which carries the same exact force as AG's opinion from 1993, one from 1977, and one from 1971. And I think the fact that these opinions are old or not fairly recent, I should say, isn't something that should concern this court. I think what that means is that this law has been well settled for 50 years. So this is something that's been contemplated by AG's opinions and cited several times that for this proposition that just because the goods are already received doesn't mean we can't request a requisition of those goods and get a purchase order. And that's what we're requesting in this case. I'm not trying to remake the law. Really, we just need to get Holly paid for the court reporter's record that she gave us for the service that we provided. And we're willing to pay for it out of our forfeiture fund. It's budgeted for. We've got the money in there. I think we've got how much was it? $55,000 that we could use. We're not even intending to spend any money out of the county coffers for this. We just need permission from you guys for a purchase order to be issued so that we can have the treasurer issue a check to Holly. That's it.
Do you guys normally get transcripts from trials or hearings, or is this kind of an unusual thing?
No, it's common for us to get transcripts of whether it's grand jury testimony, every trial that we have, especially if it's appealed at some point, we get the record of that. And oftentimes, if there's a contested hearing, we'll get if we think that there's a chance that it could be important later in negotiations, or if there's something that we would need to look back at that if it's going to be appealed, we get the records routinely. I wouldn't say all the time, but I mean we've done it a handful of times over the last several years.
Yeah, well, I guess that was maybe my confusion. If you routinely do this, it seems to me like you would go ahead and request the PO if you routinely.
And I can
had to do
explain,
that.
I understand that concern, and I can explain why it was different this time than what we've done before. We recently changed, or Judge Haverkamp recently got a new court reporter. And before we had Teresa Ward, who we had a pattern down with her, and oftentimes when we're requesting a record, it's something that we need it timely. We would rather have it sooner rather than later because we need it for a hearing that's coming up, or we want to make sure, and if we have something due with the court or the appellate court, a lot of times we need it in a timely fashion. So it's pretty routine for us to shoot an email or send an email to the court reporter and just say, hey, we're going to be needing this record if you want to start working on it, or we make a request for the record. And it's very informal. Usually it's an email. Our experience with Teresa was that after that email, it took several weeks before we would get the record, and we knew that, and we had time to get a requisition. But even if we didn't get the requisition, those have been approved in the past. I do want to say that right now. Even when we didn't get them ahead of time, those had been approved in the past. Now, what happened with Holly this time is we requested the order, or the reporter's record, and she moved really, really quickly. I think the next day she sent us the record in full along with an invoice. And I don't think any of this would have ever come up if Holly would have already been set up as a vendor in the auditing software, in our software. Because she wasn't set up as a vendor, when we tried to ask for the requisition, the auditor inquired into us if we had an invoice from her. When we gave them the invoice, they found out that we had already got the transcript. And so it was kind of going back to what I was saying. I don't think under the law that makes a difference just because we had already received the service that we were paying for. The AG's opinions have made it clear that that's not the law. But because that is the policy of the auditor's office in this case, which again, I'm not trying to rewrite policy here. I understand the policy, and we're not intending to not follow the policy that's in place. But because of kind of things that are out of our control, in this case, with her not being set up as a vendor, with her getting it out quicker than normal, with us not being familiar with how she works, because other reporters in the past have sent us the invoice prior to them sending us the reporter's record, and then we wouldn't know. But I guess she had faith that we were going to pay the invoice, so she sent us the record and the invoice at the same time. So we're not trying to rewrite the law here. I'm going to follow the policy that the auditor has in place. We just want to get her paid. That's what we want to do in this case. And she is a county employee, and this is somebody who is new here, and we want to make sure that she gets paid for the service that she provided for us.
One other question. I'm not sure we have the authority to tell the auditor what to do we, Ms. Auditor?
You can't approve any payments until I submit them to you.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm sorry, what? I didn't understand what she said. What was that?
Commissioners Court can't approve any payments that I haven't submitted to you.
Okay. Well, I know that the statute, where does that put us then, guys? I mean, that's a really strange spot to be in. I think that if you order that this payment be made and she refuses to issue a purchase order, I think that's a different scenario. But I think because she has failed to submit it to you guys, I don't think that means that you can fail to act in this case either, because the statute doesn't say anything about that. The statute says that she has to have a claim on an account for a sufficient amount of time prior to Commissioner's Court so that she can audit the account, which makes sense.
I'm kind of a stickler for the laws and rules and things like that, though. For instance, subpoenas, as we know, I think should be given to the proper people, all right? I think a recent judge just recently said, we're all elected officials and we should understand things like that, okay? You're reading the rules right here. What, Ms. Auditor, was there something else to these rules here that?
The letter opinion that they're referencing states that the auditor cannot deny giving a requisition, which we did because we approved the PO. Mr. Earlison signed it.
Mm-hmm.
It also states that per section 113.901, the auditor can refuse to make the payment if the requisition wasn't given to the vendor prior to the work being done. That's in the letter opinion. That's in the summary. That's the last sentence of that letter opinion.
Okay, is there a proper way to go about this? For instance, can they still submit a PO and then get the information they need, or
They've already got it.
they've already gotten it?
Mhm.
Okay. It's just, I mean, perhaps get the payment is what I meant. That would be my question.
No.
Okay.
What were you gonna say, Gary?
Oh, I wasn't going to say.
Okay.
Well, let me address that, because 13901, there's another AG's opinion which I can supply to Ms. Atterbury and you guys as well. I only have one copy, but I will if that's something we need to talk about later. But this is from 1977, and it says the same thing about the auditor can't refuse just because the item has already been received. That is not a reason for an auditor to refuse to issue a purchase order.
And we did that.
I'm sorry?
And we did that. You signed it.
I know, and then it wasn't approved after the purchase order was signed. I guess that's why we're here. But this 1977 AG's opinion separates supplies and materials to labor, services, and intangibles. So supplies and materials is under 113.901. Services, like the service of providing a reporter's record, is not the same thing as ordering paper or office supplies or material, or even this talks about rock for road construction. That's a material. Those are certain things, or equipment.
In the transcript and material.
I don't think transcript is a material. That's something that's a service that's provided. That's the same as asking for a psychologist to do an evaluation of somebody. Just because they give you a paper at the end doesn't mean that it's not a service that's provided. So no, I would think that there's a difference between labor and material, or materials and supplies, and a service that's provided. And the other thing here is, why would we not act on this? I mean, what are we doing here if the reason that we're going to do this is because I've got laws that can back me up that say that this is something that the auditor can't refuse to approve. She can't refuse to audit this account, which means she can look at the account, see if we have enough money in the account, and issue a purchase order. The statute says that she can't refuse to do that if all these steps are taken correctly. And I'll say this also, the requisition, the way that statute or that opinion reads in 1993, actually says that we have to use a triplicate form of requisition, and that we have to go and bring the triplicate form to the auditor. You have to keep one in your office, and you have to keep one, and you have to give one to the vendor. The way that this statute or this opinion contemplates that is if you don't do all those things, then you're not doing it right, and you can't get your purchase completed, or you can't get the purchase order. We don't use triplicate forms. We use an online system to do requisitions now. I don't know anybody that gets a copy of the requisition, because once we submit it, the requisition, the way that I understand it, is gone, and they issue a purchase order based on the requisition that we filled in. And I'm not the one that does that in our office, but that's my understanding of how it works. So we don't get any triplicate forms. We don't have the opportunity to supply the vendor a copy of the requisition prior to us getting the purchase order, because the requisition, none of us get a copy of it. It's kept on the computer. Unless you guys get a copy of something that our office has never received. And I spoke to a few other offices, and they told me they don't get copies of the requisitions. The only thing they get a copy of is the purchase order. So I guess my point in saying that is, if the auditor's not going to pay this because we didn't supply some requisition form in triplicate the way that this opinion says we should in 1993, then I'm not sure any of us should ever be purchasing anything, because none of you guys, none of the offices in the department, in the whole county, are supplying requisition forms in triplicate. So this is kind of being applied to us arbitrarily right now in this case, when, again, I'm not trying to remake the law. We will follow the policy, but it needs to be applied fairly across all the offices once we do that. And the big thing in this case is we're willing to pay it out of our forfeiture fund. This isn't costing anybody in this county any money. The only person standing in the way of this happening is, my understanding is, the auditor not approving, or not even letting you guys vote on the purchase order. That's where we are.
Well, I'm trying to enforce the letter opinion you chose to use, and that's what it says. The statute that requires a paper requisition was updated in 2007 to go electronic, but you're using a 1993, so I'm trying to follow that AG opinion that you're trying to argue with or submit, or I don't know what the correct terminology is. So no, we don't use paper requisitions, and no one gets those, not anymore. That changed in 2007. We went to electronic POs in 2009.
And that's, I mean, that, again, the policy is the policy. I'm not trying to rewrite the policy, but I really would like, I think, and another thing about this letter opinion, well, I just think, I would appreciate you guys voting on it. I think you do have the authority to approve a purchase order, approve an invoice, which I'll let you guys see if you want. This is what we need approved. I've already actually signed the purchase order, so it's in the auditor's office. The account has already been audited. We have sufficient funds in the line item to pay this. Really, we just need it to be approved. The purchase order has already been signed. And as soon as it's approved by this commissioner's court, I think we can submit it to the treasurer and a check can be issued in the normal course that checks are issued after this.
My thought on this.
Yeah.
Right there, doesn't it say, I mean, it says it cannot be approved or paid until it's approved by the auditor.
Yeah. Well, I think that the audit process is not near as big as we can make it in this court sometimes. The purpose of an audit and an approval of an account is looking at that line item to make sure that there's sufficient funds in it to pay for what you're saying you're going to pay for, which I would submit has actually already been done at the time that the purchase order was made in this case. If we wouldn't have had enough money in that account, they wouldn't have issued a purchase order for us to be able to take funds out of that account to be able to pay for this invoice.
So what you're saying that there it says, we cannot approve it. Or
Right.
does it not? I mean, am I reading that right or right?
No, I think you're right, and I think that this puts us in a really, well, okay, we submit this back around February 20th is the time that we started this whole process of going through this. This also says that any claim and account against the county must be filed in sufficient time for the auditor to examine and approve it before the meeting of the Commissioners Court. So I think that written into this law is a reasonableness and a agreement that we're all going to be professionals and go through our due diligence on accounts within a certain time period. In this case, we're talking about 20 days. So I think under this law, I think that we can say she's had it for a sufficient amount of time. I would submit to you that she's already actually audited that account at the moment that that purchase order was issued. The only thing that we don't have in this case for maybe, I don't understand why, it couldn't have just been submit to you guys to vote on it, because that part has already been completed. There is money in the account to pay for this.
Well, the way I understand it, though, the auditor was set up to manage your, and I was told at one time, I can't even say forfeiture funds, there I said it, but, so with that in mind, I hate to address it at all, but one other thing that we tend to overlook here is the auditor doesn't work for us, you know that.
Sure.
The auditor is not a county employee, so to speak. So once again, I don't think we have the authority as judge and commissioners to tell the auditor what to do. So just sort of like a subpoena.
Well, then what do we do in this situation? It's if you, where, okay, and I'm really asking because.
Okay, I'm gonna go back to.
What's the next step for us if we can't bring this to the commissioners? And I'm not saying she has to follow the order you make, but I do think that you guys have the ability as a governing body in this county, absolutely, to make, to vote on this and make a finding. I really do.
Okay, but, excuse me, but just because you say we have the authority, I'm not about to do something I'm not supposed to do on that, okay? I would like to also point out, once again, a recent judge told me that we're all elected officials here, so we ought to be able to figure it out, okay? So that's about all
I
I'm
would
saying
love to
right
figure
now.
it out. And, you know, as you know, Judge, this wasn't my first stop in trying to figure this out. And
I
as you know,
understand.
Mr. Snuggs and Mr. Hollowell, I mean, this wasn't something, I didn't have a chance to speak to you too, I apologize, but I did not want this to be my first stop, and I tried to
Right.
make sure that I was working through different channels. I spoke with different offices on how they would handle this. I spoke with the auditor's office several times and tried to figure out a way to get this done without, frankly, I feel like this is wasting the time of the Commissioners Court, because we're talking about $804 that's already budgeted for that we should be able to pay. So I don't know why I'm having to waste my time doing this, but I have tried to get it done.
I've been trying to jump in and give my opinion for a while. You know, I'm probably gonna be the unpopular one on the court right now for this, but I agree with what he's saying to the fact, now if she doesn't give it to us, our hands are tied. We learned that on the embarrassing donut deal. Both scenarios are the same. Things weren't checked on in the proper timeline. But there was proper time to audit it to make sure the money was in the account. He is purchasing a service that they do use on a regular basis. And whether they do that for court hearings, it has nothing to do with Commissioner's Court. They need it, they ordered it, it came faster than he expected, and I sympathize with that. Sometimes when you're doing things, you gotta move fast and get things happen. It happened sooner than they wanted it to happen this time. They're not asking to buy donuts, they're asking for something they need for a court case. But with that being said, if she doesn't turn it over to us, I don't know what your next move is on that. So, but I feel like, you know, it's not completely outside of our scope on something like this too. I mean, I agree with you, it needs to be paid. You know, you didn't order a limo ride for a Dallas lawyer to come from the airport to testify or something. It was something that you legitimately need, and you have money in your account to do it with, and the PO was issued.
Right, and that's something I mean, the PO was actually issued in this case. I signed it. It was all done, so I know the account was audited. The only thing that didn't happen is that didn't make it to this week's consent agenda. That's where we are.
My concern, both instances, it seems as though we didn't follow policy. Not intentionally, not throwing anybody under the bus, but policy was not followed. And then what concerns me is each time we have an issue, it turns into a litigation.
I wish it wasn't like that, Mr. Hollowell, I really do. I mean, that's not my goal.
Yeah. And then I think, as Jason's already stated, it's my understanding, based on AG opinion you offered, that until the auditor submits it, we can't approve it. She is the checks and balances. There's a reason she doesn't work for us. And I think that's so that we can't manipulate or arbitrarily override her decision. And I'm like Jason, I don't know, I mean, I've heard in the past where people had to pay bills out of their pockets. Now, don't know that that's Cooke County, but I'm a little bit.
Well, I will point out too that this opinion that I cited from 1993, it doesn't say that it's coming out of the elected official's pocket. It actually, this opinion says that in the event that a county auditor refuses to approve an account for goods that have already been delivered to the county, the vendor may bring a legal action against the county. So, I mean, I know what the policy says, and I'm not trying to get anybody to rewrite the policy, but just because we've got that policy doesn't mean that the policy can't restrict more than the law restricts. I guess that's the way to look at it. The policy can't be something that contravenes this law. The law is the law, and policy should be written out of the law, obviously, and I think, I mean, I'm not really trying to speak that ours doesn't, but there are certain parts of it that clearly don't match up, and that might be, you know, because of the supplies and materials, that it doesn't apply the same to services as it does to supplies and materials. So if we're making that policy apply to everything, that's not correct. Or this statute apply to everything in the county, that's not correct.
Had the, Shelley, had the bill been like prior court reporter history where it takes 10 or 12 days for them to get the audit, would that have changed anything on your end since they got the audit in an unprecedented time period? Does my question make sense? Yeah.
She wasn't set up as a vendor, is that correct?
Yeah, she wasn't set up as a vendor. And, I don't want to assume, many times a requisition is not put in until the invoice comes because they don't know the amount. They can put one in with a guess, $500, $100, but that's not being done.
Just like
Or
we
at the
do with a
beginning,
blanket.
yeah, the beginning of the year, set up a blanket on these
So
people, so
it's,
you have a
goes,
blanket.
you know, policies you're not fully understanding. It's part of it, but.
Yeah, but that's what I'm, you know.
And keep in mind, Eric's not the department head, he's not the purchasing person, he's the messenger.
Well, I'm the one that took on this task, and I'm the one that was working with Holly and the auditor's office and trying
And
to get
me
it done.
agreeing, I want to make a statement for my own conscience, but me agreeing with everything he's saying is not saying that I believe in we should, bend the rules, or people should be able to go around the rules. Me saying is, in day-to-day business, whether it's government business or, private business, I mean, things happen fast sometimes, and you gotta go with the flow and make it work. Nothing illegal is trying to be done here. It's not a gray or shady area. Everything's out in the open on this deal. It just, it's just, there was a couple factors that made it tough.
Well, and I think this is different than the donuts. Y'all mentioned that a few times. One of the big things about the donuts, if y'all remember, is we didn't know which line item it would come out of, and I think it was suggested a few times that we could pay for it out of our forfeiture fund, despite some of the other things not making sense. And then so this one has a line item in both our general budget and our forfeiture fund, which we're trying to pay for it out of our forfeiture fund. I mean, this is, it's things that were said were okay for us to do when we were working with the donut case. We're trying to do that in this case, and I think this is, as you've mentioned, this is something that's clearly within our line item for a budget.
To me, this isn't even a forfeiture purchase, but
I'm trying to make it easier for everybody. That's why I'm
doing
doing
money
that.
that don't cost taxpayers, I'm all for that.
We're trying to make it easier
But-
for everybody.
And to go with my statement, we have a new rock vendor, and I had to make sure that they were set up as a vendor, and I had to make sure my PO, even though that morning that I was ready to haul rock, I wanted to do it, I had to wait till the next day, because I had to make sure everything's set up. So it's, sometimes it's just a process, but, I'm also not, trying cases and doing things on time limits, and, so
And-
that's why I have a little bit of sympathy for it.
And I think with us setting this up with Holly, we didn't know how she was going to do it, and maybe we should have been better about requesting it. But our experience with the court reporters in the past had been way different than the way that she handled this. And had it been what we expected, this vendor would have been set up. We never would have been in front of you guys. We would have got the invoice. We would have got, before we got the transcript. And the only problem in this case is she sent us the transcript in the same email as the invoice, which I don't think should change anything. I mean, that's something, I understand the policy, but also this isn't something that we were trying to circumvent any law. We were going about our normal business, because we don't want to be in here arguing about this stuff in front of you guys. I wish we could get this stuff worked out without doing this.
And whenever we spoke outside of court, one of the things that tripped me up, fellas, is that she's a county employee, but she can yet still charge for this additional service, which to me is a frustrating scenario. You want to talk about frustrating scenarios, which I get it, but it's like, I wouldn't have even thought of that. She's a county employee. Well, she works for district court. If you need something from her, it seems like you get it, but that's not how it works. You learn something new every day. You got your eyes open.
You do, absolutely.
But like I said, I'm not making
And you
light
don't
of
have
it.
all the answers either.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, I'm
yeah.
not sure what we can do. I mean,
That-
according to the paper there, we can't approve it.
Unless it's
She
submitted to you
submits it.
guys.
So, I mean, we can't,
I mean,
the
does
way
that
it
put
reads
us?
to me, we can't vote on it, right?
I mean, that kind of, that
We
either
could-
places us in limbo, or it puts us in a situation where we do have to legitimately litigate this and try to get a mandamus action, which would mean forcing her to do something that's a ministerial task, like auditing an account, and then that would happen and bring it in front of you.
Well-
But I feel like
We can't vote on to order her to do anything, but,
No, we
if
can
everybody
vote
has
on
an
whether or
opinion,
not
she's,
it's paid
I'm
out
sure.
of the-
Sounds to me like
Or we
Y'all
can,
two need to
we
sit down
can,
and
we can
I
vote
figure
on
it out.
whether or
I
not to
tried.
tell the auditor to pay the bill or present the bill. But let me go back to this, okay? Once again, I do not like going around rules, laws, anything else. Because it always comes back to bite you sometime or another when you do that. When you do something that, well, it's just a little bit out of the ordinary here. Somehow or another, it always comes back to bite you. So even though this appears to be just a minor sidestep or something like that, I can't go for it myself. But whatever you guys want to, we'll vote on it here in a minute if you want to.
Judge, I
Voting
don't,
on
if you
it,
can't, you can't, if you can't vote on paying the bill, you can't vote on telling the auditor she has to present it.
I know she's listening to our opinions,
no
but our
option.
opinions won't matter when it comes to the rules, so we'll just go from there.
So,
So,
and
just no action then?
I mean, and if they have to mandamus, they have to mandamus, unfortunately.
What
Yes.
do you think is the proper way to do this?
To me, she's had the account for a sufficient amount of time to approve it, which is what 113.064 requires. She's had it for a sufficient amount of time. I would submit to you guys, she actually has already approved that account and audited the account. I signed a purchase order, which that is that exact process. I know that purchase order is not in front of you right now, but I signed it. I signed it with Sharon, and I know that they still have that purchase order. I think that because those steps have already been taken, I think you can approve that purchase order that I've already signed. It's already been approved.
It was
hasn't been
closed after you
presented.
signed it.
I'm sorry.
It
was
hasn't been
closed after you
presented,
signed it.
what it says
I-
on that paper.
I
mean,
agree.
I'm
I
just-
know, you're right. I mean, it hasn't been, the account may not be allowed or paid until it has been examined and approved by the auditor. And that's,
And presented.
uh,
Is that not what it says?
no. Must be filed in sufficient time for the auditor to examine and approve it before the meeting of the Commissioners Court. A claim, bill, or account may not be allowed or paid until it has been examined and approved by the auditor. So that's why I say I think those steps have already been taken. That it's already been signed, it's already been audited, there's already been money been determined to be in that account to be able to pay this.
Where's the approval done?
I'm sorry.
Where's the approval?
I assume, but at the time that the purchase order was made, that the approval, that the account had been audited. I'm not sure. I didn't see it after that. I have no clue. I know that we submit the requisition, we got the purchase order back, I signed it.
Isn't that why we're here though? Because it wasn't approved?
I guess so. But that's a strange spot to put us in, that we're gonna play this catch-22 and it all stops right there with the auditor's office. That's a strange place for everything. Nobody in this county has any remedy at all. That's what we're saying here. It's a strange situation where we can't ever move forward if she just doesn't want to even present it to you for a vote.
Well, I know that we don't. Okay, we cannot, she does not work for us.
Okay. I mean, that's a frustrating position for me to be in, and I think that that's a frustrating position for our office in general, because like I've said before, and this is a fear that we had when we talked earlier with you guys, when we were talking about the donut thing, is everything just stops there. And we could have a completely legitimate claim, and based on what's happening today, that tells me that if she refuses to present that purchase order to you for whatever reason, then we're right here the same no matter what we're trying to buy, what we're trying to do. Is that, I mean, if that's where we are, that's where we are, but it's a strange place to put our office and any office in this county.
I don't know. Like Jason pointed out, we have to have ours turned in and approved before we go pick anything up or what, before we can do anything. Is that, I get where you're coming from, but,
But you haven't had yours arbitrarily denied yet either. I mean,
No,
that's
but
what
we
I'm
haven't
saying is
turned in
if they were
prior
arbitrarily
before-
denied, then you guys would be in the same position as us right now with no remedy to follow up on that.
We have been delayed, though. We have been told, hey, they're either not set up as a vendor or monies aren't there, whatever the case may be.
Sure.
And then it absolutely does delay our process.
And I'll say that we have, that, just like any other office, we've gone through those processes, just like you guys have, and just like any office in this county, and this is the first time we've ever been here. So I'm not sure what the deal is, but this is unprecedented for us as well, and it's probably unprecedented for you, because I don't know that anybody's ever been in front of you saying we have a purchase order that won't be presented to you for payment. And that should be telling right there. I mean, we want to get this paid. It's forfeiture money. I think you guys can say, this is a payment that's been presented, it's been signed, and it needs to be, a treasurer needs to issue the check. But if we need to reconvene and we need to find some law on that, I mean, I'd be happy to, but, because it sounds like we're not going to get anywhere today on it.
I hate that you already know that I feel for the situation, but like our hands are tied. So I mean, if that's the next move, that's the next move. I mean, I hate that. I don't like it, but.
Yeah, or maybe we can request an AG's opinion on this. Maybe that would be the appropriate move. Maybe Mr. Zelinski could do that and see if a purchase order must be presented to you guys. That might be an appropriate inquiry for an AG's opinion.
AG
That
opinion KP 0160, under sections 113.041, 115.021, and 115.022. The local government code, the Commissioners Court must approve claims, and the treasurer and auditor do not have the authority to pay claims without the Commissioners Court approval. The claims have not been submitted.
But that one says that you guys have to approve the claims if they're not submitted, right?
Once they're submitted to us, she can't, that doesn't.
I mean,
Still,
she
if
can't-
it's not
She
submitted to
can't
us.
write a check without our approval.
that's right,
But I have to submit it to you first.
Right.
right.
Which is the checks and balances.
Right.
Okay. Well, at this point, I think we take no action, and if Eric wants to pursue some additional.
Or if I can find more law, I mean, I think we can put it back and
But
spend 30 or 45 minutes in 2 weeks talking about it if you want to. We can do that. So.
but I still think the
Good.
bottom,
Uh,
let's not put it on there unless they're requested we put it back on there.
That's what I was gonna
Yeah.
ask.
Let's not.
Yeah, I was gonna ask them if they would like to have it back on there again.
That's not a
If we need it, we can request it again.
Yeah, it is.
What?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. I mean,
Do you want to come back next court and talk about this again?
I
or
think
wait
we
until
won't
you get-
request it. If we need to, we can request it again. I don't think we just put it on there.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
mean, if the circumstances don't change.
All right, whenever
Yes.
you're ready to, come back and request it then.
Okay.
All
One
right.
thing I will say, Eric, when I started, that was one of the first things I was told. You make sure you have all your PO, everything in line, or you'll be responsible for it.
I know.
I mean, I'm just,
I know. I mean, I appreciate that. And like I said, we're not trying to rewrite anything. We
I
just,
understand.
we got in this situation, and I think any of you understand how something like this could happen. We're not trying to break a policy. We're trying to fix something that happened that was kind of out of our control, and what I felt was out of our control. And I wish that we could just work with the auditor and get it done, but that's why we're here. So.
Well, and rather than look at us like we're the obstacle here, we're out of control, it's not in our control either.
I know,
Not.
I know, and I don't know, but that's where I'm left. And we don't have to go over this over and over, but that's where I'm left. But I'm not sure what to do next if you guys can't help us. So, but we'll work on that. Okay. So, thank y'all.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Item number 15 is no action. Item number 16, deliberate and consider possible action regarding the approval of appointment of historical commission members for a period commencing January 1st, 2025 through December 31st, 2026. And Was the list in the packet there?
Yes.
Okay,
And I have a paper, once y'all sign it, y'all can look at the actual thing.
no, that's fine.
Let me
If y'all
just,
agree.
is this the, is we just,
Just approve it.
okay, are these the same people? They're new people? What do we got? Who's?
Those are all some of the same people.
So there was 3 of them that fell off, and then everybody else is still on there. It was supposed to be done back in November, December, didn't know that. But I had till April 1st to get it done, so.
Is
These
this
are
a
just-
judge's office thing? Like
Yeah.
the judge is supposed to?
Well,
Every
it's
2
actually
years.
Gordon Newton. It was the Historical Commission. He's the one that supplies the list to us and keeps the
And,
list.
and helps find people to be on it.
Exactly.
I thought you'd gotten off of it.
Do what now?
I thought you'd gotten off of it, off the historical commission.
No. Would I be so lucky?
I know it pays quite well, so.
It does. It's a very,
Don't start that rumor.
very lucrative. Yeah, very lucrative.
I'll make a motion that we approve the, or appoint the historical commission as presented.
I'll abstain since it's pointed out that I'm on the list.
I'll second it. Sign it.
So we have a motion, Commissioner Snubs. We have a second, Commissioner Arndt. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There are none. We have 4 and 1 abstention.
Can you still sign it?
Oh, I'll sign it. I just didn't vote on it.
Okay.
But I don't think there's a conflict with that.
Yeah, I don't think,
No, I just,
I
I'm
just
not
know
gonna
I need
vote
your
on myself.
signature.
I had thought that you'd gotten off of it for some reason.
All right. Not voting on myself. Because as you pointed out, it's such a lucrative position, I don't really want to. Okay. Item number 17, deliberate and consider possible action regarding a request by Friends of the Cooke County Library to 100% fund a mural to be painted on the exterior of the Cooke County Library building.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you guys today? In your packet, we gave some examples of what we would like to do on the front part. I also printed out, sorry, I have the sinus stuff. I also printed out the area that we're talking about, so you know, because I realized I didn't include that to Chelsea. So,
Is this all 4 sides, or is this
no,
just?
could you imagine that brick?
Well,
The way the brick goes, there's no way you can do it because it says,
It's not a pink steer, is it?
no.
because it looked awful busy to me for all 4 sides.
As you can see in that picture, we're just looking to do the front. And what we are talking about is on the sides of where the middle is, where the name is and the historical plaque, is putting taller spines of books with names on it. And then below where the actual name is and the historic plaque would be an open book with characters from different books, letters. We're working on obviously you need to see a mock-up before it would be done. Our concern was the building does fall in the historical district. And I know that was an issue the last time when we painted the building the color it is now. Yes. We had, Weaver's the cutoff, Jason.
Okay, I learned something.
So, yeah, we did too, when Judge Roan was in office before and we painted the building. So we want to make sure that we come to you guys first before we move to the next step, which I'm assuming we're going to have to go to the Historical Commission and ask for their permission to do it. I don't know how that works.
What about the downtown group? Do you have to go back and run it by them?
I don't know.
Just like the paint?
That's why I'm asking. It's the county's facility. We are in the historical district.
To me, that would be a city thing, not the Cook County Historical Society that we
No,
just voted
this is a
on.
state historical building. isn't
It is,
Oh,
yeah, that plaque under, yeah.
oh, I see the plaque now.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, what would really be helpful to me?
Hateful, what would be
No,
really
I didn't
hateful
say
is,
hateful. What would really be helpful to me would be an illustration of?
Yes, and she's working on it.
Okay.
They're not
That's
that
what I
far
said. I know you
Okay.
guys need to see a design. We just sent you. And Gary, you're right. The ones we sent, they were a full wall. You know, we're looking to just do this front part. First of all, because it's unrealistic as far as the way the brick of the building goes like this. One brick's this way, one brick's that way, one brick's that way. You couldn't paint on that even with a sprayer. It would be very hard to design something on that. We don't necessarily want the whole building to be that way. We just want the front to have a little more appeal.
I love
And
it.
curbside. And, you know, now with the one that's on the DMV building, it would be nice when the kids are coming in and you pull up and the chamber is across the street and there's events there, that you see this colorful, happy building.
And the Friends.
So,
gonna-
and the Friends is
100%
behind
fund.
paying for it completely.
We're gonna
So
have
I have the president, Christy Everton's here, and then Gay Holcomb is here, who's also on the board. If you need to ask them questions, they're both here.
So you're planning on the center, I mean, you're gonna have books all across this?
Well,
and then
that's what I was
some
saying.
raised,
On the side,
Right,
there'll be the tall spines, so the books are going up, and then names with it, and like, let's pick Wizard of Oz, right, out of the top of my head, because I'm just picking it. So,
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Do you have a idea of what the illustrations are?
well, these are in your packet,
Right.
so they kind
Right here,
of,
Joe.
so what we're looking at
Okay.
is, this one is in Kansas City. This is more of a like really elegant kind of a
Right.
thing. We're probably talking about doing something that's more like this.
so they'll just basically use EFS and go above the roof line, and
No, we're
Make
not
it
even gonna,
staggered.
it's gonna just be painted, just on the
so
front.
you're not even going above the
We're
roof
not going
line?
above the roof line, we're
Okay.
keeping it just on the
Okay.
front.
No controversial books or anything?
No, none of that.
Any,
None of
what'd you
that.
say?
I said no controversial books or anything like that?
No, we're talking like Wizard of Oz, or,
Yeah.
you know, Catcher in the Rye, or, you know, Oh, Catherine.
Just knee-jerk,
Oh, Pioneers by Catherine Miller or something.
To me-
You know, kids' books too, Curious George, you know, that kind of stuff.
the full bookshelf looks better than the tilted books.
Oh,
don't know
I
if you're
agree.
looking
That's
for character,
why-
But the others look cleaner than the first one.
So you're kinda going for this
So-
look here?
Yeah, what we'll do is put numerous spines on the side of where, I took this at an angle because it's hard to take it
Right.
straight on, so it looks a little different, but we're looking at tall spines with names and like the characters. Say she does a Curious George, she puts George on the bottom or up on the top. And then in the middle right here, because you don't want such short books, an open book, so like a book that's opened, and Curious George popping out, to use him, or Peppa Pig, or whatever, you know, you could do, I don't know, different animals we've talked about, letters, A, K, you know, so it means something, there's reading and that kind of thing. She is working on a mock-up. She has a program now. This is a young woman who works for me already. She has done numerous murals in Whitesboro and other places around Cooke County since she's moved here. And she now has a program where she can take a picture with her iPad and it will let her create with the actual measurements and all of that.
Is that the prospective artist?
Yes. Yeah.
That'd be neat to be an employee that gets to,
Excuse me?
it'd be neat to have an employee.
Yeah, I think it makes it kind of special. She's asked questions too of the other employees, like what are popular books? You know, because it'd be nice if, you know, we use titles that we know are popular with our community, right? Curious George is a huge one for kids, believe it or not, so that's why it comes to my head.
I always like Wacky Wednesday.
There you go,
Remember that
see?
Wacky, Wednesday.
The Dr. Seuss that me and
Yeah.
Christy used to read at St. Mary's School.
So,
But, you know, Dr. Seuss he's historically, everybody knows him, but will Peppa Pig always be
Exactly.
out front?
yeah, I mean, we like to kind of use classic books.
Yeah.
You know, I think that would be.
That was totally TV.
No,
I mean, like, you put Paw Patrol up there, it's popular now, but 6 years down the road, are we gonna repaint it because Paw Patrol's not
Right,
in?
exactly. That's the thing. So we're going to go with books that have been true through time. I guess. Like A Wrinkle in Time would be a great one. It was written in the early 1900s, and it's still considered a classic. So things like that. So we just want to know, you know, can we move forward with the next step, which I'm pretty sure is going to have to be the Historical Commission, and talk to them. And I don't really want to do too much until she gets a mock-up, too.
Well, you do the Historical Commission, or will you do the City of Gainesville first?
I don't know, does the city,
They
we,
had-
when we painted the building before, we didn't do anything with the
Didn't we
city.
get input though?
No,
Did
just,
somebody
I had to
complain
go
about
to the
color or
Historical
something?
Commission.
They complained about the color of the awning. Oh, no, the downtown.
The Historical Commission is who,
No, it was the downtown.
No, the downtown
street.
city folks, whoever,
The
downtown
downtown
Gainesville.
that organization doesn't, the downtown business owners, they don't exist anymore, that organization.
They don't do what?
They're not, my understanding is they don't exist anymore, that organization.
Okay, but at some point in time, we've gotten some negative feedback on something that we were gonna do downtown from whoever that group was.
Okay,
So, I mean, if they still exist, it might be, you might wanna put out some feelers. I'd make the,
Christie knows more about the GDC stuff than I do.
I think it's a neat idea.
I do too.
I'd make the motion.
I'd second it.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion
We'll
from
figure out who all we need to talk to. We'll talk to them. We'll come back with a mock-up for you before anything starts too, and let you know what's happening once we talk to them as well. We'll
And
just
that's
keep you-
assuming you get approvals from.
Yes, exactly.
Commission folks need approvals from.
Right, exactly.
We have a motion from Commissioner Hollowell, second from Commissioner Sicking. All in favor? Aye.
Thank
All
you.
opposed? There are none. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
And thank you, for all of you. I think it's a neat idea. There you go.
I've got one.
You got one? Okay. All right. Deliberate and consider possible action regarding a contract between Cooke County and Train for the facility assessment scope for the North Annex and the budget amendment for same.
This is the client agreement that we talked about weeks ago for Train to come in and do an assessment of facilities. It's because it was a contract, we also had some discussion about that in executive session, but everything's in your packet. I would make the motion that we approve. And before I say that, Shelley, do we need the budget amendment on this one? And it's gonna come from,
You want it out of permanent improvement?
it's building stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd make the motion that we approve this and do the budget amendment out of permanent improvement.
Second.
Anybody have any questions for all over there?
I don't.
We have a motion, Commissioner Hollowell, second, Commissioner Snuggs. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? There are none. Motion passes 5-0.
You have a
Thank
good time
you.
today?
Appreciate you being here.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
You can stick around a little longer if you want. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 19, deliberate and consider possible action regarding the proposal by JTS for the Rice Avenue to Sanger Tower 1+0 microwave link and budget amendment for same.
Most of you know that we've had issues with our fiber connection between the sheriff's office and Denton. The problem is we have to go through 3 providers. Our local provider does an excellent job. For some reason, one of the providers, part of this fiber runs, I guess, over around North Central Expressway. They're a commercial group. They don't get too excited when it goes down because they don't realize the sheriff's office is having issues. So the goal here is to replace the current fiber and eliminate that monthly payment and do a microwave connection from the tower that Denton is putting at Sanger off of 455, just east of, well, between Valley View and the lake. The quotes in the packet, it's buy board pricing, so it doesn't have to be put out for bid. This is not a Motorola effort. Base price is $115,000. We might want to consider the the additional $15,000 for parts and stuff of that nature. What that actually gets us is another radio if one goes down. And we can anticipate probably another $20,000 expenditure to Motorola, because right now we are hardwired with this fiber from Denton Sheriff's Office to our Sheriff's Office. When we reroute with microwave, it'll go to Rice Avenue, so they got to reprogram the way they're all connected network, the 4 towers. So, any questions, concerns, comments? Again, this has nothing to do with the quality of our radio system. It's our connection between us and Denton County.
Will
The
this
fiber.
have a monthly service?
Denton's not going to charge us anything.
I mean, like to some provider for
Because it's
microwave?
microwave. My understanding, no monthly service. Denton is not going to charge us any, for any, the microwave's going to be installed. We're paying for that. That's what this is.
On our own tower?
Clippers and
No.
all up and down.
There's one on our tower and one on their tower. It just
Well, yeah, that's true.
bounces between both.
Maybe they're just getting.
Yeah, they will install the microwaves on both towers, and it'll be a microwave connection, and we will eliminate our monthly payment. And it has been so bad lately that Nortex recognizes the issue. But when it loses connection, it's really an obnoxious alarm. I mean, so then what we do is we fall back to our VHF system. So I'd make the motion on this one that we approve it with, now, will it too come out of capital improvement? It will come out of general fund with the budget amendment out of general fund. Now, are you guys, you interested in the additional hardware? You want to do the 115 plus 15? What do you want to do?
Or
What happens is that microwave works off the radio, okay? If you were to have a lightning strike or something and the radio crashes, then you've got the radio there ready to be put in, and it reduces your downtime.
so it's like having an extra one in stock.
That and hardware and stuff of that nature.
I'm sure it's pretty common being that these poles get struck a lot. I mean, because they're big giant lightning rods.
You know,
With
we've had
everything else,
microwaves now for what, 4 years? We haven't been having issues, but, and then keep in mind, at some point, we're gonna have to probably come up with and do a budget amendment to Motorola. And when we do that, Shelley, can we, gosh, what's the word I'm looking for? We're gonna tag it to phase 2, to the existing phase 2 contract, an amendment, what's the word I'm looking for, to the contract,
To Motorola?
to Motorola. When you change the contract, modify the contract, what's the term?
Change order.
Change order, do a change order. And they won't have to go do a bunch of re-engineering and all that stuff, they'll just piggyback it onto the change order.
I mean,
Right,
you're,
do what, though? So we may have to go do a budget amendment for that. So,
as far as the extra unit, I'm gonna lean on you for your opinion on that, because you're the one been leading up all the radio stuff.
Me too.
yeah, I don't, excuse me, because we're adding additional capacity, it should see more use. You know, I lean toward doing that. It's $15,000 worth of insurance.
Because we won't have the core as a backup, or the connection, the other connection as a backup, because we're gonna do away with the monthly service, so if.
Because it's not very good to start.
Right, 100%.
We can't.
So if this goes down, it goes down.
What happens to the billing to the other?
I don't want to talk about that in executive.
So did you make the motion?
So assuming we do the 115 and the 15, that's 130. If we set out 20 for Motorola, you're talking about $150,000. And assuming we eliminate a $1,500 a month monthly payment, it's about a 6-year payback. I'd make a motion that we approve it with the additional hardware. And then the money will be there. If we decide to do something different, we can do something different.
8 years.
I don't know without, I know without the extra Motorola money and stuff on it.
No second.
And just one question, does that need to be done now, if it's gonna be done?
We actually want to do it because right now, the people again, this is not a Motorola thing. This is Denton County having their tower built and all the hardware and stuff being put on it.
Right.
And it's cheaper for us to let them do it while they're there than it is
Okay.
for them to come back
So
later.
it is time to do it now then?
It's-
Okay.
That way the load capacity and everything's there for the tower.
Okay, we have a motion, Commissioner Hollowell, second, Commissioner Sicking. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There are none. Motion passes 5-0. Item number 20 is executive session in compliance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Chapter 551, Government Code, Vernon's Texas Codes annotated, consultation with county attorney regarding what do we get? Proposed actions and advice of court, real property issues, contracts being negotiated, any personnel matters. Shelley, would you like to stay in this?
If we're going to talk about that contract, I'll tell Shelley what.
What was you smirking about?
Huh?
I'm leaving.
No, you're staying, partner.
I thought we were supposed to do it. I thought so too, but it's a little extra inside out. And Daryl will take us.
Oh,
Okay, well,
Like, is yours?
well, can we do that real quick and then swap out?
Whatever you want to do.
Shelley, if you don't mind.
no, let her stay because she'll leave and then he can say what he's want. You stay for a minute. I mean, I don't care if you stay for all of it, but apparently.
Is,
Oh, they're right there.
I didn't get my
Judge.
minutes either. You see my minutes?
I don't,
let Ed
Okay.
talk first and
Okay.
then.
okay.
Okay, sign all of these, huh?
You want to give her a time so she can turn everything down?
Yes.
It's a private road.
11:18. convene into open court at 12:45. Item number 21, deliberate and consider possible action regarding consultation with attorney regarding proposed actions and advice to the court, real property contracts being negotiated, or any personnel matters.
Judge, I'd make the motion that we approve the contract for legal services as discussed.
And I'd like to second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? There are none. That motion passes 5-0. One, well, never mind. I'll discuss this over the next few days.
Jason?
On an adjournment motion?
Yes.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Got a motion, Commissioner Snuggs, second, Commissioner Art, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There are none. Motion passes 5-0. We are adjourned at 12:47.